This is a video essay and commentary on Psychopomp Gold as a standalone piece of media. This will discuss my thoughts and findings, and any corrections and follow-ups will be discussed in a separate video. This includes talk of any other FadingClub games. Please bear this in mind going forward. Warning: the following video will contain disturbing and violent imagery, uncomfortable text, and talk of mental illness and existentialism. Note: I am not a medical professional. Anything spoken about here is pure speculation. Epilepsy warning: there are flashing lights and patterns in this video. If you are experiencing any concerning symptoms, please contact a doctor immediately. With that said, let's get started. Hello there. Welcome to my musings about FadingClub's game Psychopomp Gold. Today, we'll be going over the plot of Psychopomp Gold, as well as discussing its lore and some theories. I'll admit it's been years since I made a video. However, this game has had a vice grip on my brain, so I had to jot some of my thoughts down. It has served as a big inspiration and has personally resonated with me in so many ways. This includes the lore and world building, themes such as transformation and identity, as well as a focus on reincarnation and the idea of soulmates. This also includes the characters, of which we'll be going over in this video. Please note, I have not watched any other explanation or theory videos. These are all from things I've discussed with my wife and friends, or noticed myself. I also strongly advise you to play the game for yourself before watching. There are heavy spoilers for the following endings: main, home, and the epilogue, as well as the discussion of vision. There are also spoilers for Psychopomp 2's trailer. With all that said, let's get started. What is Psychopomp Gold? Psychopomp Gold is a psychological horror game and first-person dungeon crawler, where you descend into several areas inside the catacombs beneath government buildings. You traverse these strange places, come face to face with eldritch horrors, and encounter creatures who look to have popped out of a Jim Henson film. You are trying to uncover the truth of the world thanks to your trusted helmet, machine that lets me read people's minds when I want to, also called Psychopomp for short. Uncovering the secrets hidden from you, and ultimately ascending to the role you've shed in the past. You are then ushered into the shoes of a business-minded individual who seems to have been in dormancy for quite some time. Someone whose face, and thus identity, has been abstracted. You are then beckoned to reunite a strange dog and a family to eventually deal with what plagues the bloody earth above you. Now that we've talked a bit about Psychopomp, the game, we could talk about what a psychopomp is in terms of mythology. A psychopomp is a figure who guides the souls to the afterlife. In a sense, a psychopomp is the bridge of the living world into the world of the dead. While the term originates from the Greek words soul and guide, it is not limited to Greek mythology as a whole. Examples of psychopomps in mythology are Hermes, Greek, Odin, Norse, Anubis, Egyptian, Azrael, Islam, Ishu, Yaruba, and Heibai Wushang, Chinese. Animals are also symbolically considered psychopomps, and these include wolves, foxes, birds, horses, and even insects, to name a few. While, according to Jungian psychology, a psychopomp is a mediator between the conscious and unconscious realms. This is worth noting going forward. We will now be discussing the plot of Psychopomp Gold. I will be adding timestamps in the description, as well as an annotation of a time to skip to if you already know it. Everyone, everywhere, has secrets. Did you know that everyone has special powers and they've kept it a secret from me my entire life? But I won't stand for that. That's why I made a helmet. I call it machine that lets me read people's minds when I want to, or Psychopomp for short. But something happened when I put it on. It didn't let me read people's minds, but it did let me see something else. A world that was hidden from me, that everyone knew about. A world hidden in plain sight with all sorts of animals and creatures and dead bodies. There are catacombs hidden under every public government building. I will not allow any more secrets to be kept from me. Ridden with paranoia and distrust from the world, our protagonist creates a helmet that will finally allow her to see the truth that's been hidden from her, and to no longer live in ignorance like her mindless coworkers. With her helmet and trusty hammer, she sets off into the night, vowing to make things right. True to the Psychopomp name, in every area she is tasked to kill something and bring them to the afterlife. If, so choosing, things do not need to be spared, and violence can be the main pursuit. The game starts with her exploring the catacombs beneath a public school, a children's hospital, and a sewage treatment facility. The first is a factory, allegedly recycling children into various tools and using their enamel to perfect information and speech. She kills the head of the factory, answering his pleas for death. The second is a hidden hospital, keeping rich and elite members of history and society alive, as well as attempts to cure mental health with the use of perfect parasites. Plato's, Alexander the Great's, and Cleopatra's life supports are all shut down. The third leads down to the sewers, where she finds creatures living off of human waste, whose queen is ready to die and be replaced. There, she bears witness to shrines and reptilian-like creatures called the Thrate, a female-only species, that are doing their best to survive in suboptimal conditions. Descending even further into the world, she comes across a hard structure infested by moths and silkworms. Sentient creatures akin to buildings beckon for aid in fixing this, only to have the taproot, the source of all buildings, be destroyed by her hammer. The next area, instructions. Here, the protagonist sees how DNA is processed, and how roles are assigned based on the present origin point's whims. She is sent on the task of removing an obstruction, but in doing so, something catastrophic is injected into the primordial information, killing the sentient teratoma. The sky is now dreary, bleak, and completely devoid of life and gray. The final location is unlike the others. The foundations of the world disappear into an abstract area of symbols. Here, the protagonist learns from paragons, who have existed since the world's creation. Destroying them, and obtaining their knowledge, leads to the final point of dissension. The protagonist falls deeper into the earth and into the waters of the Mariana Trench, something that seems to exist under every town. She's collected an egg of the earth from every location she's visited, and is ushered onto hollowed ground before the sacred dermis, the shed shell of a giant dragonfly. Going forward, she's at the heart of everything. The life meat is in her hands, and she knows what to do, creating a newborn child of clay and speaking to the helmet that's been with her since the very beginning. With a newfound resolve and remembrance, as well as the sudden wings sprouting from her back, she flies away and never returns. Changing scenes, she enters a darkened library. At the end of the library is a document, something addressing the Caldmen Four. Once her protagonist turns around, she is met by 4 red eyes in the sky watching her. They proceed to do so until her exit. We are now met with the silhouette of the protagonist, who once more has wings. The ascension has led to the connection to the subject being lost. She is now, as she was, the Queen of Venus. Note, among these areas you will find other locations, the home of the Rust Mothers, the symbol of nature, the tellings of past or current events, and an altar to a lost queen, only to name a few. An alternative subject is tracked and found. The words, "It's time to wake up," can be seen. The perspective and scenery changes as we exit a door into a brightly lit world, a far cry from the night of the last. The new protagonist is a bit different from our former, dressed appropriately for a business occasion. He seemingly has no memory and no recollection of what his life was before waking at this strange locale. He finds himself at a hotel in the middle of a desert. His only option is to descend the stairs, where he is greeted by a dog. The dog then introduces himself as the king of all dogs, and he tells the protagonist that his face has been abstracted, but it happens to the best of us. There is something happening to the bloody earth above, and it is a matter of time it will descend onto this world. It must be dealt with post-haste. After all, he insists, this business-minded individual is the only one capable of stopping this calamity. Following this conversation, the dog leads the fellow further into the desert. It is here the dog asks him to find his compatriots, as they failed to show up on time. Thus the dog entrusts him to gather these strangers in order to make sense of things, perhaps to answer why he's here, and why the air is thick with tension. On his way, he encounters two proud insect-like creatures known as the Evren, a male-only species, in a building. They both hail him as the human they saw at the hotel. A place like this is unbecoming of him, they say, as one relaxes despite his better judgment. Even our protagonist is aware that a time like this doesn't call for relaxation. He has no time to dawdle. He moves through the maze and kills the constructs in his way. It is only a matter of time until he encounters a jacketed man near flowers on the wall. He is called the Father, and his smug expression makes the protagonist's skin crawl. The man speaks of the flowers, which are captivatingly beautiful yet deadly. Afterward, he finds a cloaked woman called the Mother, surrounded by scales, whose skin under her cloak sounds like slithering. She asks him if he prefers pythons or constrictors, and also mentions that there are many kinds of snakes in the world. Lastly, he finds a little girl with a pink hat and dress called the Child, who seems to have far too many folds underneath her eyes. She speaks of the puppets and how delightful they are. In the end, they all agree to go meet up with the dog. After traversing back and walking through crowned statues carved from stone, he arrives at their meeting place. The figures are far away and obscured on some platform, and it takes a while for him to walk forward to join their council. He feels a presence at his side and turns, only to meet face to face with the dog, whose visage changes. His face is torn in half, and he looks at him with ominous eyes settled within the blood and gore. There's hardly any time to recover from the shock, however, as there's an explosion on the planet above. The ground shakes, and his vision obscures as all turns to red. Our game ends here. Now that we've learned more about our protagonists, we can begin talking about the lore. An important aspect when discussing Psychopomp GOLD is considering the lore in the creation of the world. Reincarnation and rebirth are a recurring topic, and we need to know just who, or what, the protagonists were before their current lives. The first protagonist is Venus, while the second protagonist is Mercury. They were two deities by the names of Vishnari, Queen of Venus, and Caldmen, King of Mercury, beings that are approximately 4.5 billion years old, an estimation of how old the Earth and universe is. A document found in the Children's Hospital states, recently uncovered texts reference two enigmatic figures, Vishnari, Queen of Venus, Caldmen, King of Mercury. Several ancient textiles depict these beings creating the heavenly bodies and weaving the universe. Their names seemingly refer to two fictitious planets, Venus and Mercury respectively, which they held dominion over. It is thought that these figures acted as a subject of worship. However, their descriptions and depictions within the textiles match no known religions or cultures. The symbols on this document are visible religious flags that hang from the right side of Venus's helmet. The flags represent different worldly religions to imbue the helmet with a certain level of mysticism. Despite the fact the textiles do not match any known religions and cultures, they are identifiable enough to be spoken about and included on her helmet. It is proven that Venus was formerly the Dragonfly Queen, who shed her skin, the same shed skin that is referred to as the sacred dermis in the room following the Mariana Trench. With that in mind, we will look at the following illustration. Here we see two deities with alternate forms. This can be inferred to be the Queen of Venus and the King of Mercury with their respective bugs, a dragonfly and beetle. While the two signs denote a connection to Christianity, it is likely that these religious figures are being kept alive by both the Thrate, being counterparts to Venus, thus are all female, and the Evren, who are counterparts to Mercury, and are thus male. Not only is a Thrait in front of the dragonfly shed, but in the Thrait village, you could even see drawings on the wall showing an adaptation of what is both Venus and Mercury interweaving and creating the universe. Throughout the game, you will see several shrines erected in tribute to the Dragonfly Queen, such as in Sewer Treatment and the Hollowed Nursery. A Thrait elder can be seen commentating on the Queen and how they are awaiting her return. They consider these places as hallowed ground, much akin to the sacred dermis, and do their best to protect it despite the rise of monsters throughout these worlds. We have even been given more insight to the Thrait's traditions, of which would participate in syzygy festivals, celebrating the alignment of Venus, Mercury, and Earth. Thraits, Evren, and even humans have been documented to coexist during these times. You can even see figures similar to both Mercury and Venus in illustrations of the first sun and the first moon, which points to the possibility that Mercury and Venus may be these same entities that are mentioned in Vision. However, this is just an assumption, as the first sun and the first moon are one of the earliest examples of the cycle of rebirth and importance of the karmic spiral. As Vision states, Layer 5, Karmic Spirals. At this stage, a being's gained karma has reached a mass in which it begins to pull unto itself. Gravity, that is, karma, is birthed via a continuous rebirth cycle of life and death. The continued soul entity is compounded and grows with each form, each life passed. Karma is never lost. Whether action is good or bad, karma is only gained. At a certain stage, the soul entity's mass will collapse into a form similar to a heavenly body, continuously grown by the actions of its avatars and growing karmic spiral. The original sun and moon are two examples of this. There is other evidence showing us that our protagonist, Venus, was or is a god. Carbonic confirmed that the life meat of the world can only be manipulated by its creator. The fact that Venus is capable of altering the life meat and transforming it into a child shows that she was the origin of this world. However, the world has since changed from the beginning. She makes a comment about awakening the child's siblings, which further seems to reference those giant clay golems found within the nursery. Vision really settled in the importance of creation in past lives, as well as the fact that some memories are retained and passed on to other incarnations. Also worth noting is the importance of karma that follows through each life. Venus clearly remembers her past lives at the end of her metamorphosis and states that she's feeling pretty good. I believe this is an indication that she's remembering things, as well as the knowledge that has been kept from her. It is commonly thought that a god is the highest form of entity. This is untrue. Identity and consequences create fully cyclical incarnation loops, which often cross back into themselves in the precision of time. These identities may interact, love, or antagonize each other, therefore themselves, endangering and strengthening the incarnation loop. Information, that is, karma, is passed between loops, adding to the selective collective unconscious that is formed between incarnations. A mother and her child may indeed be the same person. It is possible the comment saying a mother and her child may indeed be the same person could reference that the Queen of Venus and the original sun are the same person, as the document stated that the Queen of Venus and the King of Mercury are responsible for creating the heavenly bodies, therefore the original sun and the original moon, and yet they are possibly within the same cycle. They have even met in their current iteration as children. This was before they were presumably separated. After sifting through Venus's psyche and home, you are met with a black and white figure. Approaching them prompts the following cutscene, a memory between Venus and Mercury. Hey, give it back. What is it? Some kind of metal stick? A nail. Huh? It's my nail. I need it, so give it. A nail? What can you do with a nail? I like hammers better. It's better than a hammer. I can build stuff with it. Now give it back. Ha, you're funny. What's your name? Not gonna tell you. Bleh. Tell me or I'm not gonna give it back. Mercury. That's a funny name. Here, catch. I'm Venus. Let's be friends. Aw, don't make that face. I'm sorry. Say, heh, you got a funny face. You're mean. Come on, let's be friends. I'll show you a secret. Secret? How to catch dragonflies. They're the coolest bug ever. Beetles are cooler. Beetles? Lame. No way are they cooler. Haha, Mercury likes beetles. A beetle can beat your dainty dragonflies any day. Yeah, right. Show me then. Bring it on. While their ages in the cutscene are unknown, they are now currently 23 years old. It is worth noting that these figures representing Venus and Mercury in this memory have the same seal or symbol as seen on the gate to the center of the Earth. Considering all of this, it is evident that Venus and Mercury have been fated to be together, to traverse their lives together. This can be further represented by the infinity symbol and the two stars as seen towards the end of Vision. The red reflects what we saw in the original sun's illustration, while the blue mirrors what we saw in the original moon's illustration. The two dragons may also represent Ouroboros, which is also symbolic for death and rebirth, as well as the transmigration of souls. They are, in all senses of the word, soulmates. This may be further reference to the relationship their mythological influences share, even to the point that Aphrodite and Hermes had a son, Hermaphroditus, while Venus and Mercury had a child whose name was Cupid. It's also worth mentioning that Venus's god name, Sivinash Vishnari, is a reference to Vishnu. In general, both Venus and Mercury are meant to be life and death gods. Venus draws a lot of inspiration from Shiva as well. Vishnu is the god of preservation and offers protection to the world through various iterations, or avatars. Shiva, however, represents cosmic destruction. Both Shiva and Vishnu reincarnate together, even merging to create and maintain supreme reality. As such, on the planet Venus, Sivinash Vishnari is the god of life, whereas Krishna Kolvin is the god of death. On the flip side, on the planet Mercury, Krishna Kolvin is the god of life, while Sivinash Vishnari is the god of death. The conditions mentioned in Vision, as well as the overall transformation or deification of Venus, can be similar to a metamorphosis. This can be seen in the following statement. Apotheosis is only the penultimate stage of life in the carnal incarnation loop. It is necessary for a newborn god to create the conditions needed for the next layer to be born and calcified. The dream exists as an existential fimbriae between reality. Information is produced and harvested by the dream, growing the collective unconscious shared between individual realities. When an entity ceases to exist, their dreams do not die with them. Venus's metamorphosis into a newborn god is a necessary catalyst for the cycles to be complete. Venus's awakening and realization is even tied to the life stages of a dragonfly, further enforcing her role and importance as the dragonfly queen. In Starting Point, there is an open egg with a Thrait Elder standing in front of it. When you speak to the Thrait Elder, she will tell you the following. When nobody was looking, the queen's chrysalis hatched. That means she's out there, who knows where. I can't help but fear. There are vermin dogs who would lead her astray. I must have faith. The queen will return. While the chrysalis is hatched and is implied to be our player character, it's evident that the Thrait are unknowing of this and are unaware of the queen's current vessel. There are two stages where Venus could have shed her current shell. One is her psychological rebirth of 2 days upon wearing the helmet, while the other is mentioned later after she traverses the depths of the Mariana Trench. The time spent here, before her complete metamorphosis, is likely a reference that dragonfly nymphs spend their time completely underwater. Once going through their final molt, a nymph is now a dragonfly and lives above water. This is parallel to Venus's own transformation, completing her journey and arriving at the heart of the world, the room just after the Mariana Trench. At the end of the trailer for Psychopomp 2, we even see her fully transformed and merged with her helmet, possessing even more dragonfly features than before, as evidenced by her clip eye, mandibles, as well as the lower plate, which may be a reference to the labium that dragonfly nymphs have. It is also possible that the news announcement in Daddy's Bad Place is also in reference to Venus's transformation, giving us the following message.
5 a.m. today, a state of emergency was declared following the appearance of a large unknown insect-like creature in the Melbourne borough of Central City. The creature is unpredictable and is considered to be highly dangerous. This is not a drill. If you are inside, stay inside. If you are outside, find the nearest shelter. If you are thinking, stop thinking. The insect may appear to you as a human. It is not. It is an aberration of your imagination and does not exist. Stay away from the insect, as it is highly dangerous. Do not attempt to communicate with the insect, as it is highly dangerous. The insect is not real. The insect is not real. The insect is not real.
While it could be a reference to the fact that Venus appears to be human, it may be more likely that this message was meant for after her ascension. Her appearance would have been abrupt and likely destructive, as she had flown and perhaps broken out of the center of the Earth. When you die, you are greeted with the Game Over screen, which shows us a pinned dragonfly. There is also a similar illustration where the family overlooks a pinned queen and king, Venus and Mercury respectively. Mercury may also experience this when reaching his own ascendancy, as seen in the statues before in the desert, as well as the following illustration, which may be very well a past iteration, just as much as it might be recurrent in the future. While Venus's dragonfly counterpart is not known, although I would possibly place her as a gray petal-tail dragonfly, Mercury's beetle counterpart is a Mullencampi beetle, with some influence from stag beetles. Now knowing who and what our protagonists are, we can discuss the roles of psychopomps throughout the game, as well as the real-world mythological influence. While the Roman goddess Venus, also known as Aphrodite in Greek mythology, the goddess of love, is not actually a psychopomp, this could be somewhat influenced by our necessity to have the helmet to see the truth. However, the Roman god Mercury, Hermes in Greek, the messenger of gods, is known to be a psychopomp. This may be referenced in his ability to see and interact with the world regardless of having the helmet. Despite this, both protagonists complement each other, and their journeys are parallel to one another. Venus's journey to the center of the presumably false Earth, while Mercury's journey is upward to encounter his other half. Venus's helmet fulfilled its task in guiding her from the false life. According to her, it didn't let me read people's minds, but it did let me see something else. A world hidden in plain sight, with all sorts of animals and creatures and dead bodies. This is where the game starts. Her newfound knowledge of a world that has been hidden from her, now being ready to explore. Along with Psychopomp, the helmet, Venus also becomes a Psychopomp, guiding some of what she kills into the afterlife, as some mobs are required to kill in order to progress through the game. So, in a sense, both herself and the helmet have become a vessel of a Psychopomp. It is worth noting that the helmet may not be the sole catalyst for her sudden awareness of this hidden world. Her psychological rebirth may be in part of her remembering her past lives' memories, or perhaps a combination of both. Mercury's role is to later be observed, despite killing miscellaneous enemies in the epilogue. There can also be a lot of symbolism in using the term psychopomp, in the sense that both protagonists are being guided by a higher calling, perhaps even their own past lives, memories, or dreams. It is also worth mentioning that insects are in fact considered psychopomps in mythology. Dragonflies are considered to be psychopomps in some beliefs. In Native American beliefs, dragonflies are often associated with the souls of the dead. A loved one's death who is visited by a dragonfly gives the promise that their soul is free. There are also some beliefs that the life cycle of a dragonfly can represent the transition between physical and spiritual realms, beginning in water as a nymph, and later taking to the sky as adults. Dragonflies can also symbolize invincibility and protection, which can also apply to Venus, as Carbonic has confirmed she is very good to her followers, even if she is capricious. Beetles also can be representative of the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the god of the morning sun, Khepri, was also the god of rebirth, transformation, and resurrection. Khepri was represented by scarab beetles due to the belief that scarabs were born from nothing. Scarabs were also placed on the hearts of the deceased to guide their souls through the afterlife as to later resurrect. It is also worth mentioning that the colors used to represent Venus and Mercury, black and white, as seen at the end of Home, are also the same colors used to represent Heibai Wushang's separate halves, Xie, Bian, and Fan Wuzhou. Hand of a father, hand of a mother, heart of a child, mind of a demon. The father, the mother, the child, the king of all dogs. You encounter the king of all dogs at the start of both paths in Psychopomp. If you keep talking to him as Venus, you will get the following dialogue. Don't idle here, you have much to do. Don't worry, for there is a plan to everything. I'm sure you will see in due time, my friend. If you remember when we spoke to the Thray Elder in Starting Point, she made a comment that there are vermin dogs that would lead her astray. Despite him encouraging Venus to go forth into the world and later ascend, it is also concerning that he seems to be playing Mercury, who, like Venus in the beginning, has no memory, to eventually fight his counterpart. In a transient location, you end up eavesdropping on a telecommunication call between the king of all dogs and what appears to be the family, the child worth noting due to the talk about puppets. They have the following conversation. Hey, can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you. Good, I hope you're doing well. It's boring here. I'm dying of boredom. I can't stand the desert. Blah. What's the status? The queen? She's awake but still dormant, trying to hide. Doesn't matter though, her progress is perfect. What about the other one? The king is fast asleep like a big dumb snoring baby. Good. Do not wake him up until I tell you to. The last thing we need is to deal with both of them at the same time. Not until everything is ready. Aw, do we have to? There's nothing to do around here. Especially these little puppets, they're boring. Not like the real thing. These ones don't squirm right, and they make such a mess when they pop. Have patience. Soon we'll have more fun than ever before. Aw, if you say so. You're the boss. Heh. Am I a good boy? The best of the boys. The king of all boys. Once we see you again, I'll give you a big nice bone. Sounds lovely. I'll look forward to that. Oh wait, is this channel secure? Should be. Not like it matters. Nobody listening can do anything. The aforementioned king is the king of Mercury, who is sleeping in the Arroyo Inn and wakes up during the epilogue. This is confirmed in the phone calls when inputting K-I-N-G, king, on the phone. The receptionist will tell you that there are no rooms vacant. They also mention that if you're trying to reach their guest, he is currently sleeping.
Hello, you've reached the Arroyo Inn. I'm very sorry, but there are no vacant rooms at the moment. If you're calling for a guest, he's currently asleep. Please leave a callback number and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks, bye.
It is worth noting that, as stated by Carbonic, these entities are not related to one another, and the forms that are taken are simply ones they prefer. They all came into being at the same time. It can be assumed that they are some manifestation of the Caldmen Four, and are even responsible for Mercury's abstraction, due to its noted ability to erase, or rather, block out their light, stars within its path. This is further proven by the universe as seen in the home ending, and the document found in the forbidden location. The two planets that are left in orbit fit Venus and Mercury's locations specifically. Meanwhile, the effects of the Caldmen Four are discussed in the document in the forbidden location. Caldmen Four, the brilliant interstellar phenomenon lighting up our skies. I don't feel that I need to introduce you to Caldmen Four, the interstellar phenomenon that has been making headlines for the last month. One only has to look at the skies to see the bizarre sight. 4 brilliant lights, leading what looks like a trail of absolute darkness across the night sky. The phenomenon has elicited all sorts of reactions, from wonder to outright panic. Many religious leaders have pointed to the Caldmen Four as a sign of jubilation, or of end times to come. But what are they, really? The answer is, we don't really know. The Caldmen Four were first discovered on January 16, 2022 by Harris Caldmen, a worker at the Green Bank Observatory in Green Bank, West Virginia. At the time, they were characterized as a set of superheated interstellar objects moving through space at speeds previously unheard of. What if the dark space behind them? Though it might look as if the stars have simply disappeared, leading scientists assure that the stars are all most likely still there, but that their light has been absorbed and hidden from us by a way of a phenomenon known as Heath-Nightdale absorption. Light is absorbed into the trail of the Caldmen Four and expelled out at the sides known as the photon edge. Beautiful view of the Caldmen Four tearing through the sky, showing off the extreme Heath-Nightdale absorption behind it. The Caldmen Four's influence began blacking out stars in the sky, which led to the controversy of there being no stars. There is also a strong similarity in how this void looks compared to the orbs in the communication room. After finding this document in the library, there are 4 eyes that will watch Venus until she exits. Upon re-entering the game, you will see your silhouette floating for a moment before shooting up into the sky with her wings, breaking through the confines of the world. Having broken through, the text "Subject Lost" is displayed on the screen amidst broken glass and hexagons. This indicates she is too far from their range of surveillance, needing a new subject, one that is closer to range than Venus. The words "Tracking Alternative Subject" and "Alternative Subject Found" are displayed. This is when Mercury wakes up and enters the scene. A document underneath the public school shows evidence of people believing there are no stars. This could be due to the fact that the Caldmen Four are blotting them out. It reads, "Open Valley. When the child looks to the sky, they will make believe about stars, planets, and other impossible lights shining above. When the adult looks to the sky, they will see no lights but take comfort in it. There is no danger in nothingness. When the dead looks to the sky, they will smile and close their eyes, seeing that there was light all along." Scrawled over the text, it says, "Stupid, there are no stars." There is also a document in sewer treatment that discusses 2 planets in the sky, one being another Earth, whose scale is smaller than the current Earth of residence, and another planet being close to the size of a moon. It is possible these worlds in question may be Venus and Mercury, as Venus's size is just under Earth's, and Mercury's size is about the size of a moon. In sewage treatment, we also find the following document. Dr. Illegible. I apologize, but this doesn't make any sense. I can't wrap my head around it. All measurements, gravity, trajectory, mass, they're all consistent with the planet noticeably smaller than Earth. There's no way Earth lost mass, did it? And what of the Earth that now hangs in the sky? It looks just like our planet, but far smaller, closer to the size of a moon. I don't see how you can deny all of this. Your claim that all of this is simply caused by equipment failure or operator error is absurd. I understand the desire to be skeptical, and I respect what you have done for me over the years, but at some point we need to start looking at what is directly in front of our faces. You are in denial of the situation we have found ourselves in. Signed, Illegible. In the phone call FOUR 4, there is a recording that references playing games and having fun, perhaps referencing their boredom in the telecommunication room.
Hey everybody, let's have fun today. What kind of fun do I have in mind? I've got a game to play. What kind of game is it? Well, let's say it's a game of tricks. It's a game of traps and twists and turns. But I think you're really gonna enjoy it. And I think we're all gonna get along just fine.
It is also evident that they are attempting to create a new universe by reuniting the Queen and King. This can be seen with the following poem, which depicts the 4 together, and can also tie into the prior phone call. The text reads, "Fun. Fun's most fun when it's with you. From sky to shining star, together forever it's true. To travel near and far. If we break too many toys, and if that makes you blue, we'll reunite the King and Queen and make the worlds anew. Fun will be eternal then. We'll play forevermore. The toys will have lives again, the better for us 4. Lyrics from Towalker can also allude to this. especially the mention of Cambrian behind the door. Cambrian refers to the first period in the Paleozoic era that was dominated by invertebrates. The Towwalker lyrics in question are, "They saw the awful future, the Cambrian behind the door, and thought they could escape them, but were found out and then were gored." When calling B-U-G-S bugs, you are met with displeasure with bugs and the world they create. The sentiment, "we won't be dealing with bugs for very long," could be a reference to the Four wanting to destroy Venus and Mercury, or perhaps put an end to the worlds they've created, and one that aligns more with the Four's image and one that will be more enjoyable.
I'm so fucking tired of these damn bugs. Every which way I go, it's mantises or beetles or other shit. I can't stand them. I can't stand the way they crunch, the way they smell, the sounds they make, and these damn worlds they create. But don't worry, we won't be dealing with bugs for very long.
Another reading could be that the Caldmen Four are a reference to the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Conquest, or Pestilence, rides a white horse and can be interpreted as the king of all dogs. While Conquest can be seen as the Antichrist, they can also represent false prophets, and as we previously spoke, there are vermin dogs that would lead her, the queen, astray. Conquest is also known as the first of the horsemen, which is fitting for the king of all dogs, as he is referenced to be the one in charge. King of all dogs is the first you encounter throughout both routes, Venus just after the first room, and just after waking up as Mercury. The second horseman of the apocalypse is War, who rides a red horse. The closest parallel we have to this would be the father's jacket, which is orange. The third is Famine, who rides a black horse. The mother is seen wearing a black cloak, which may resemble this fact. While Famine is said to be found with two scales, referencing the weight tool, the mother is surrounded by scales of a snake. The final rider is Death, who rode a pale horse. Although the child's outfit is pink, her features are described as pale, and she also has white hair. It is likely she was the one talking about killing the puppets in the communications room, stating, "They make such a mess when they pop." Depending on the route you take, she may also be the last of the four you find when playing as Mercury. The document we read formerly had said that the Caldmen Four was referred to by some as the end times to come. It is evident that the universe has slowly been dwindling to 2 planets, as seen in the home ending. The awakening of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse is described to bring about the end of the world, due to multiple catastrophes, thus being cataclysmic. The cataclysm is worth mentioning, as carbonic refers to a desecration of gods, which had led to the decline of the Gold Age, which had eventually become the Rusted Age, a conceptual age in which the paragons, which resemble beetle pupae, flew above the land and possibly reshaped it. During this time, the Thraite were at risk of losing their religious beliefs and traditions. It is possible that this was ushered on by the Four, or the process was merely sped up, and things became imbalanced or nonsensical in part of their boredom. This is likely why the planets, or perhaps their respective gods, no longer exist. These events led to the flaying of the Earth, just as much as the 4 horsemen would lead to the end days of Earth itself. When looking at Venus's song, "Bad Chest Don't Touch Your Feet Together," we can infer that they in question may in fact be the 4. However, it is also possible that the person or thing being spoken about in the song may be Mercury, whose identity has been abstracted, as well as the fact that it is likely these two will be pitted together. The lyrics even reference diseases, which can furthermore play into the 4 horsemen comparison. They are as follows: "I'll come up out of the blue when you ended up in the national news, and they told me where I could find you. They told me where you live and what I should do. They told me about diseases, and told me I should cut you to pieces, and told me you were not true, and told me that they would redistribute you. Sold your eyes to a Goodwill. They drank you until they had your fill, and sold your teeth at a flea market, showed your skin at a Target. They made the earth from your bones, and they put your brain into phones, and they turned you into quite a prophet, and hid the rest in my closet." hid the rest in my closet could perhaps be a reference to the fact that the memory she shares with Mercury was hidden and locked away, and she was forced to forget him. Or, if she is forced to fight him and ends up killing him, he would be just another skeleton in her closet. The mention of phones and profit also have a lot of business connotation, of which Mercury is described as a business-minded individual. Alternatively, this could reference the fact that the king of all dogs is behind the phone calls. It is also possible that you may refer to different people, both Mercury and sometimes herself. Especially when ending up on the national news, it may refer to the lines we spoke about in Daddy's Bad Place, for she had ascended and thus grew dragonfly wings and eventually metamorphosed into how we see her in Psychopomp 2. Meanwhile, it is evident that the Earth would have been made from either Venus or Mercury's bones, as they are both responsible for creating the universe, and therefore Earth. However, there is the possibility it is referencing the prince, who we will be discussing later. That is mostly bone. It could also allude to the fact that the Four intend to destroy them upon building a new world after reuniting the king and queen, specifically when they had their fill of the two, especially Mercury, who is being used. It is also worth mentioning that the number 4 is considered to be bad luck in East Asian cultures. Also that all phone calls have been confirmed from Carbonic to be that dirt-born friendly damn dog, different times and emotional states. The images in the art gallery and symbols also seem to bear resemblance to the 4. The 4-legged figurines may represent the dog, who splits himself in half, and the eyes in the paintings may refer to the eyes you see in the forbidden location. Mental illness is also explored in Psychopomp, and is worth noting despite the protagonists being cosmic entities. Venus is an individual who exhibits a lot of neurotic tendencies, and whose sanity has completely slipped at the start of the game. There are different interpretations that can be taken in the moments where she has built and desperately donned her helmet. One of these things can be seen as a nervous breakdown or perhaps a bout of mania. It is evident she experiences a form of psychosis and paranoia, which very well could be attributed to a schizoaffective and bipolar disorder. These thoughts heightened and eventually led her to her breaking point. There is a lot that can be inferred from her actions and speech throughout the game. An example of this are the conspiracy theories you see throughout her real-world tips. Perhaps some of her ideals were misguided. They were ultimately affirmed as she sets out on her journey through the world, later becoming the Queen of Venus and fulfilling the role which she had forgotten in this life. Due to Venus's commentary in the school and her familiarity with how loud and unruly kids are treated, it can be inferred she might have struggled a lot with this in her past. It is possible that she might have ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and it was not received nor treated well. While her impulsivity might be in part of her mania, as discussed prior, it is possible that it might also be attributed to ADHD. While her conspiracy theories may be in part to her delusional thinking or psychosis, it may be reinforced by an overactive imagination. On the topic of neurodivergency, it is also possible that she may be autistic, especially as autism and ADHD are sister disorders. Not only could this have contributed to her struggles in school, but it shows especially with a seeming special interest in engineering. This, alongside other conditions, could have influenced her difficulty of connecting and understanding the world around her. It is clear our protagonist has a deep-rooted distrust, and seems to think she is the only one who has an understanding of how the world works. She considers her coworkers to be unthinking, which was in fact also confirmed by Carbonic, which can be interpreted as them going with the flow, and simply not questioning the manner of their existence. It's possible that they've accepted the dreary state of the world, where planets are fictitious and that stars simply don't exist. After all, children are the ones who believe in stars, and adults are complacent with the absence. She has the firm belief that the government is hiding something from her, from the public, and that there are catacombs underneath every government building. Despite this thinking being seen as delusional in the modern world, it is confirmed to be true in hers. One of the entities in Vision's speeches can be assumed to be Venus, as it mirrors her distrust for the world. Personally, I can't stand how any of this feels. I don't care what the penny pushers are saying. I don't care about what the lawmakers are thinking, or what scam they're trying to hawk. They do not see it and are part of the same membrane. It's everywhere, the rules of it all. Each place in time and moment in space is punctuated by these rules in a sickening way. Our greatest enemy is the fabric itself. The universe is malevolent. Some people believe in vibrations, that you should speak no evil for it creates unto itself. They are fools. Do you think the universe cannot hear our thoughts? It rules to contradict each one of them. We are not free in our bodies. We are not free in our minds. We are not free in our DNA. Venus, even prior to her ascension, was seemingly aware of how corrupt and cruel the world is. This could be due to her own experiences, having very strong opinions of schools and hospitals. It is possible she also has trauma relating to both of these things. While we have previously spoken about her experiences with school, it is worth considering her life from a medical standpoint. The lines, "We are not free in our bodies, we are not free in our minds, we are not free in our DNA," gives us very interesting insight into her character. What happened to trigger such a strong reaction to a hospital, and even being familiar with its sights, sounds, and smells? On one hand, it is theorized she might have been a nurse due to sharing the same audio as the eternal nurses when falling into the Mariana Trench. On the other hand, it's possible she might have dealt with chronic illness and eventually had gotten a spinal tap, which has lasting effects on the body, to assess what condition she might have had. This could be in reference to the right entity in Holmes stating, cerebral spinal fluid at 80%, nutritional fibrotic cell health wavering at a grade of approximately 60%, musculoskeletal system reacting poorly, please be advised. It is very likely that she has a chronic neurological disorder, perhaps multiple sclerosis, which would also have negative effects on her physical and mental health. It is also very likely that she might have experienced the removal of an ovarian tumor, specifically a dermoid cyst or a teratoma, which possibly could have been a fetiform teratoma. A fetiform teratoma, also called homunculus, resembles a misshapen fetus, and very well could be represented by the sentient teratoma found in instructions. This also has interesting implications when considering that Venus's companion species, the Thrate, reproduce parthenogenetically. This condition is the closest that a human could replicate such a thing, the teratoma in question being able to produce teeth, hair, skin, and even skeletal structures. There may be complicated feelings in regards to its removal when considering the religious implications, especially regarding virgin birth. This gives us fascinating insight into her upbringing. There is a strong possibility that Venus was raised in a very religious household, possibly Christian or Catholic. If you were to assume Daddy's bad place is Venus's home, there is a cross on the wall that may allude to this. The broadcast that plays here could portray a level of guilt and persecution, if we are to take it as something other than her ascension. The fact that she is something dangerous, incomprehensible, or even tainted, a shame to the family or world she has been born into. It is likely that a lot of her paranoia and guilt stemmed from the ideas of her household and warped her very own outlook of life as she matured. There also may be implications of shame when it comes to her sexuality, a lot of references being made to sex, libido, as well as a lot of nude imagery throughout the game and even her own psyche. Taking this into account, she has even doused her helmet with holy water, perhaps serving as her, as well as its own, rebirth and start to a new life that is free of sin. As we spoke of before, this could have resulted in Venus having conflicted associations with religion. This is confirmed, as Carbonic has mentioned that he channeled his own religious anxieties within the game. The subject matter presents itself in a myriad of ways: the cross in Daddy's bad place, the prayer flags upon her helmet, as well as the shrines seen throughout the transient and ephemeral locations. These elements often conflict, but sometimes coincide, with the Eastern philosophy and spiritualism that presents itself. Venus's own deification, as well as the cycle of karma and rebirth, are examples of this. It is also worth noting there was some level of suppression in regards to her memories. There's some symbolism in the fact that you need the emerald keys to unlock her memory in the home ending. Despite this core memory being very important to her, due to life events, it might be possible she blocked them out. I believe that this memory, as well as her other lives, is also unlocked during her ascension. It is possible that Venus has some level of dissociation, likely tied to trauma, which is why her memories are heavily barred from her. This is further proven with the dialogue from NPCs like the following: "There is a face inside you that isn't yours." It is possible she might also experience auditory hallucinations, interpreting noises into music. This may be why she is partial to noise music and considers herself to be surrounded by music in the world. Venus also comments that, "When I sleep in a school, I taste new things," as well as in making remarks about hair looks edible, as well as the concrete used to build one of the shrines. It is possible that she experiences synesthesia. This is a condition where one sensory experience will trigger another, an example being sound, seeing color, or even taste. She also has a habit of anthropomorphizing inanimate objects and speaking to them, as seen as her attempts to speak with vending machines or even the TV in Daddy's Bad Place, where she is quite enthused to have found a TV that actually talks back to her, as most are selfish and ignore her. Trying to speak with a wall even has her remark that a wall makes for poor conversation. Venus also has the ideology that inanimate objects have feelings and can even feel pain, therefore you should punish them so you can make them feel it. She also holds her helmet to some reverence, even calling it baby as a means of affection. There is a possibility that Venus has or used to have pica. You can see several examples of this when observing the NPCs and objects that surround her. In particular, when observing the nondescript girl, Venus makes a mental comment wondering how her hair would taste. When viewing the statue in sewage treatment facility, she will comment that it's a kind of concrete that she wants to lick, full of textures and holes. Pica is an eating disorder in which people will compulsively eat or swallow things that are usually considered inedible and lack nutritional value. Examples of these are, but not limited to, ice, paper, soap, rocks, grass, and paint chips. Clay is another example used. However, some cultures will eat clay for medicinal or religious purposes. While Venus's quote, "When I sleep inside a school, I taste new things," can refer to the previously mentioned synesthesia, it is also possible it can refer to pica. Children with this condition often eat things like paper, erasers, and even things like chalk. There is also a link between neurodiverse individuals and conditions like pica due to sensory-seeking behavior. It can also be caused by a nutritional deficit in an individual's diet. Mercury seems to deal with his own mental issues, but they appear to manifest differently from Venus's. It appears that he has an immense amount of anxiety, which could exhibit itself as OCD, obsessive-compulsive disorder. It seems he tends to ruminate on thoughts. His insistence on using gloves may also be due to OCD, due to a fear of a contamination. Gloves would allow his hands to stay clean, and therefore not overwashed, or alternatively can prevent trichotillomania, or skin picking. Alternatively, this may also be a product of having sensory issues and having adverse reactions to touching certain textures. There are multiple readings that can be taken from the following lines of Mercury's song, Toe Walker. "I'll tell you again, a storm is coming and it's gonna rip you bit by bit. I don't want you to be around me anymore. I want you to leave me alone. I want you to get out of my life, because you're going to die. There's too many things going on. You need to shut up. You need to go away and you're nothing in this world. Get out of my life." At first I interpreted these voices as dissociative, or even psychotic in nature, as Carbonic has confirmed that every one of them are Mercury's. It is very possible this may be him remembering a past event, or perhaps an old argument, possibly with Venus. If the latter, it seems that the argument was rather traumatic for him, and it continues to haunt him. If this is an argument with Venus, it's possible he was trying to push her away for fear she would get hurt, or it may be possible he was splitting. Him having BPD, borderline personality disorder, is very probable if we assume he has trauma. There are also a lot of sentiments in Toe Walker where Mercury says that he doesn't deserve to be alive. This can be interpreted in many ways. It can imply a sense of guilt, or his poor self-image. Despite the real-world tip that you will never get ahead in life if you doubt yourself even for a moment, his confidence is clearly feigned, or is based upon his business persona. I strongly believe the comment that his body has been vandalized is due to, what is likely, sexual trauma. The lyrics are as follows: "Don't look at me with those eyes, I'll sing you one last lullaby. Don't look into my insides, my body has been vandalized." Venus's commentary on Mercury's face being weird can be taken as him making an odd face, or perhaps being very stunted and having a flat effect, or perhaps he's not making an appropriate face for the situation. This is something that I have a difficulty with myself, being autistic, so it is very possible he might be on the spectrum and have very specific reactions that come across as odd, while it could be something else, such as referencing a birth defect, or perhaps heterochromia. It is something that both myself and my wife have discussed. It is also a popular theory among fans that there are implications of addiction between both Venus and Mercury, Venus having smoked, and Mercury having drank. Both of these are tools to relieve stress, while the latter is a sense of escapism and can dull the senses. There is an NPC towards the home ending that says open lung sore detected, which may imply she has lung damage due to her smoking habits. There's a lot that can be said about the creation of the world in clay. This is a similar theme found in real-world religions. In Christianity, as the Bible states in Genesis 2:7, "Then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and then man became a living being." While in Jewish folklore, golems, much like Venus's children, were humanoid creatures made from clay or mud. In Mesopotamia's The Epic of Gilgamesh, the goddess Aruru was said to have fashioned humans and animals out of clay. In Kidu, who shares the name of an Evren in Psychopomp 2, was even made from a pinch of clay. In Egypt, the goddess Khnum would sculpt children out of clay before placing them into their mother's womb. The clay theory even extends out to Greek, Asian, African, Polynesian, and Native American creation myths. While the creation of mankind is very consistent with the concept of clay, it is also worth noting that a goddess often plays a role in their creation. This only further serves to connect us to Venus. This brings us to the museum, where the comment was made that, despite extinction, that humans have evolved. What you see are clay beings, the same you see in human seedbeds, a location where we see various clay figures attempting and learning how to speak, but are just off the mark of being completely human. At the end, you see a figure that resembles Venus, but completely made out of clay instead. It is considered a perfect imitation. The timeline of evolution in this world is really hard to place. All that we know is that there was a place in time where Thrate, Evren, and humans coexisted. It is also uncertain how much this Earth differs from the Earth that we live on to our day-to-day. The only other human that bears resemblance to us is the nondescript girl in the beginning. While it is known that Venus has co-workers, they are deemed unthinking, which may either be a result of her own judgment, or could possibly allude to the fact that they may be solidified humans that we saw in the human seedbeds. It would be hard to determine if this is the case, as we actually don't get to interact with them in the game. Killing the nondescript girl gives off similar effects when we kill any other NPC, aside from the humans we encounter in the seedbed. When you attack them, they shatter into dust. It is worth noting that despite the fact that the alleles and instructions are made of clay, they have similar effects as when you kill the nondescript girl. It is unsure if this is intentional on Carbonic's part, perhaps insisting that they are of a different biological makeup, if they stem from and are powered by the egg, or if this is simply just a gameplay mechanic. That being said, it is evident that the Thrate have not gone extinct, as they are very much alive despite their poor circumstances. Humans are also still alive, especially around the same time as the Thrate, even after claims they have died in captivity. It might just be possible that the humans that were able to interact and perceive things such as the Thrate, or the world hidden around Venus, might have simply gone extinct. An exception to this may be Mercury, who is debatably not human, and would be considered to be a god like Venus. When speaking to a Thrate in the Thrate village, we are given the following dialogue. Up on the surface the other day, I saw a human get hit by a car. Everything inside of them spilled out. Nothing but dust and clay. This same Thrate, upon looking at her, gives the prompt that she is eyeing you up and down and trying to figure out what you are. This may allude to the fact that Venus's creation, and thus being, is different compared to other humans. Despite not knowing she is their queen, they may be able to sense something within her, Or perhaps it is because she is made from a different essence completely, a reflection of such being the fact that she is not only a god, but is actually an insect as opposed to a human. It is also possible that humans being made out of clay is the plausible reason that humans can withstand the harsh climate on the planet Venus. We will discuss this further in the next section. This is a theory I'm still mulling over, as I'm trying to piece together the current placement of the planets and if the Earth we are on is actually Earth. This is suspending disbelief, as Venus in our real world is uninhabitable due to its harsh conditions. When speaking to a Thraite woman in the Thraite village, she says, "Our village was forced down here after all the humans appeared on the surface. It's horrible. This is our home, and to call this place, our world, Earth, makes me sick." As shown, a Thraite woman comments that they were forced underground when humans appeared on the surface. She also shows disdain at the world being referred to as Earth. This leaves us with the theory that Earth was possibly named something else originally. If this is the case, it can be assumed that humans were not here originally and had eventually colonized their world. Seeing as the Thraite are the companion species to Venus, it is likely that they were natives to her representative planet, especially as they were confirmed by Carbonic to be an alien species. Although we see Mercury near a Thraite in his trailer, it is possible they might be on other planets as well, or Mercury finds himself on the surface of Venus. Venus is also referred to as Earth's twin and sister planet, further adding to the reason that calling the planet Earth might be a misdirection. As seen in the ending of Home, there are only 2 planets in the universe that are not crossed out on the universe chart. These 2 are Mercury and Venus, who are orbiting along with one another. While I initially operated on the assumption the game takes place on Earth, it may be more probable that it takes place on one of the remaining 2 planets. Due to the spreading and influence of the Caldmen Four and their possible destruction of planets, mankind could have made a last-ditch effort to relocate to Venus, although it is worth noting that neither of these planets have moons, so there would be no explanation for the moon seen throughout the game, unless, of course, this is in fact Mercury, as you are able to see this planet just as well as you're able to see the one the main character was on at the end of the epilogue. When looking at a building bed in Hard Place, you will be given the following text. The building bed looks out to the moon fondly, remembering when there was no moon in the sky. Furthermore, after the life meat is changed into the form of a child, Venus states, "This world has changed. It has been twisted into something it is not. It will change more. Perhaps that is inevitable." This may be a reference to the fact that Venus has been changed by its new inhabitants, and perhaps made into an image of Earth. In regards to the image of Earth, it is worth mentioning the prince, as it is very well possible they were the Earth just as much as the protagonists are Venus and Mercury. As we discussed, all other planets in the solar system are crossed off and presumed to be dead, and so too is the Earth. The prince is considered a corpse with only their head remaining on a flayed body. This can be an allusion to the desecration of gods that we spoke about before, and the flaying of the Earth. Although it is a common theory that the prince is Venus and Mercury's child, if they really are the Earth, it would make more sense for them to be Venus's sibling, as Earth and Venus are referred to as such. You could even see similarities in their appearance, especially when looking at Venus's beta model in comparison. Ultimately, we will likely learn more about this in Psychopomp 2. Please note, all sections when discussing gender are coming from an intersex and transgender person's perspective. I believe that Venus is an interesting character in terms of gender roles, especially given her mythological namesake and influence. Venus, or Aphrodite in mythology, is the goddess of love and represents the female gender and shares the same symbol that her game counterpart does. Furthermore, Venus is identified with the aspect of water, an element that is important in the development and roles of dragonflies. There are even some cults that are devoted to Venus in mythology, which may be parallel to the worship and close bond she shares with the Thraite in the game. As it stands, Venus is a very strong female protagonist. She's very innovative and shows herself to have a lot of skill, having built her helmet from scratch and even welding and connecting it together with bolts. She used a lot of her knowledge, even prior to her psychological rebirth, to perfect the model and imbue it with the mysticism of several worldly religions. Not only that, but she seems very knowledgeable about the blueprints of the world, able to guide herself to various locations without seemingly any hesitance. Not to mention, she is very resilient and is a fierce fighter, showing herself capable of taking care of several foes these otherworldly catacombs throw at her. It is also very transparent that she's dealt with a myriad of discrimination and hardships in her life prior to her ascension. It is also worth noting that she may have more attributes to the Greek iteration, Aphrodite, as she is more untamed, while Rome's Venus is considered to be more passive or nurturing. If Venus is indeed the original sun, in many mythologies the sun is considered to be masculine. In Vedic mythology, to represent the sunrise over the equator, both Mercury and his wife would switch genders and positions. It is possible that this could be attributed to her, and shows a form of balance between the two. Venus has likely projected aspects of herself onto her companion species, the Thrate, who also are interesting to observe in terms of gender. As discussed before, they are a female-only species, and they happen to breed through parthenogenesis. This means they do not require a male in order to procreate. This is a kind of breeding that is found in insects, fish, reptiles, and even plants. It mirrors Venus's own ability to simply create new life and children from the life meat of the world. They, much like their creator, are very resilient and strong. I believe that this, being paired with the overarching theme of transformation, change, and rebirth, as well as Venus's ostracization growing up, may imply that she is transgender. I'm a big fan of any reading of her character, and I feel like there can be many interpretations to be had from such. One could even say that the clay child could be symbolic of her gender, as she is creating one, and has created many before, as opposed to having a biological child. I believe that Mercury can be considered to be androgynous or even intersex. There is a lot of androgyny to him, and I would like to think of him as more than just an average businessman, but instead as a business-minded individual. Psychopomp has a lot of commentary on shedding one's skin and metamorphosizing, and this could very well apply to gender identity. The astrological influence of Mercury is considered to be genderless or dual-gendered, being the least masculine and least feminine planet of all, and thus the most balanced. This is further proven due to the fact that Mercury would even change his gender and sex within Vedic mythology, in which he is also known for business success. It is worth taking into consideration due to the evidence that both Mercury and Venus take inspiration from their mythological counterparts, even referenced in the fact that in mythology they were even both liaisons. The symbol for Mercury, which is also present in the game, is actually used as an intersex symbol, as it blends both female and male attributes. I believe that even despite Mercury having the male counterpart species, the Evren, that if Mercury were to be seen as strictly male, Carbonic would have chosen Mars, or Ares. While it is an archaic term, and no longer appropriate to use for intersex individuals, Hermes and Aphrodite are both linked to the term hermaphrodite. This is due to their offspring being Hermaphroditus, who was born male, and then later fused with the nymph Selmachus. This term is still used in regards to identifying and describing the mating patterns of animals. There are two kinds of hermaphroditism found in nature: simultaneous hermaphrodites or sequential hermaphrodites. Simultaneous hermaphrodites have both male and female organs at the same time, while sequential hermaphrodites change sex during their lifetime. In humans, we would consider this intersex, which is an umbrella term used for those who are born with various sex characteristics, not limited to chromosomes, hormones, reproductive organs, or genitalia. Some insect species even display gynandromorphism, in which a specimen will display characteristics of both sexes. This is observed with animals that will be spliced in the middle, and on one side will display male patterns or coloration, while on the other side they will display that of a female's. There are even some beetles that reproduce via parthenogenetic paidogenesis, thus removing the need of distinct gender roles in order to procreate. While the Thraid reproduce through parthenogenesis, the Everin do not, and reproduce in a manner that would be considered to be hermaphroditic. The basis of their reproduction requires a breeding trio rather than a breeding pair. This dynamic has, in Carbonic's words, makes a young adult Everin's love life quote-unquote full of bewilderment and uncertainty about sexual identity because of this. What was Mercury thinking? From this statement, we could assume that a lot of Mercury's own feelings about love and gender has been projected onto his companion species. If the first moon is in fact Mercury, the moon in many mythologies is considered to be feminine. Note, while it's likely due to lighting, I would like to believe that Mercury's model in Psychopomp 2's trailer even has breasts. Even if you go by the concept art where he doesn't, that's okay too, as there are many kinds of intersex conditions. In the phone call of B-O-D-Y, body, it references a flayed woman in the bathtub, and in Special Shower, you see an entity named Prince who fits this description. While it may not be intentional, in my mind I'd like to believe that the Prince is possibly transgender. A lot of dialogue can be symbolic of transitioning, as well as finally being free and at peace with one's body, or in this case, lack thereof. It can especially be seen in such phrases as excitedly playing in the delight of flesh becoming an object, separate from oneself and completely discernible from the whole, and dancing in joy at that holy release, at the ability to finally be free. The call is as follows.
Every night I've dreamed of a flayed woman in my bathtub. She sits there, submerged waist-high in a mass of her own sliced flesh, splashing her near-skeletal hands in and out of the frothy remains, and looks at me with a smile, excitedly playing in the delight of flesh becoming an object, separate from oneself and completely discernible from the whole. The flesh is old and has turned gray, far more than could ever have possibly come from her, and yet it is all from her. She stands up, moving without muscle, only slight tendon on her bones, and crawls out of the tub and runs through the yard, dancing in joy of that holy release, at that ability to finally be free.
If you consider the Prince to be Earth, it is noted that Earth is a sister planet to Venus. This may further prove that at some point they were indeed the same person as the flayed woman in the bathtub. However, it appears they transitioned and would instead be considered Venus's brother. There could be another interpretation that can be taken, and this is based on the fact that you hear cicadas in Special Shower, the place where the Prince is found in. There is a particular fungus called Mesospora cicadina that will infect and therefore replace the cicada's abdomen with a plug of spores. This will eventually lead to abdominal rot within the cicada. While the fungus will infect both female and male cicadas, it will change the sexual behavior of the male cicada to emulate that of the females. Under normal circumstances, female cicadas will flick their wings to attract mates, while male cicadas will produce a mating call. Infected males will pretend to be females, therefore emulating their mating behaviors, to entice other males to breed with them. This leads to the dispersal of their spores. Even though the infection keeps the cicada alive in order to spread, it will ultimately result in the individual's death. While it is possible the Prince is based on some other kind of insect, or other invertebrate, the fact that their head is the only living and recognizable part of their living body may allude to this. Cicadas are also symbolic of rebirth, resurrection, and immortality. While the cicada lives most of its life as a nymph, upon emerging it will molt, growing wings as well as developing the ability to breed. A molt, or shedding of their skin, could also possibly reference the Prince's transformation mentioned in the phone call. However, after their transformation, they sing their songs, attract mates, and lay their eggs to inevitably begin the cycle anew. This ties in neatly to the themes of infinity and constancy that we have seen throughout the game. Cicadas can also represent carefree life, which may allude to the whimsy the Prince has despite their rather grim circumstance. On the flip side, there may be a chance that the audio W-O-R-M, worm, can also be referring to the Prince. As Carbonic states, you know the Prince, for he is below your feet now. While cicadas are also below the ground, so too are worms. Worms also have complex sexual structures, some even being triaceous, being trisexual in nature, having male, female, and hermaphroditic individuals. However, there is a possibility that the worm in question may refer to the king of all dogs, in which case, this may be better attributed to him versus the prince. While it is unknown why, just submerging into the Mariana Trench, the real-world Tip is voiced by one of the nurses as heard from the children's hospital. This feels deliberate, as each type of species or NPC in the game has its own unique noises. This appears to be more than just a reused asset, and may imply that Venus has the same speech as the nurses do, which leads us to ask, is Venus possibly a nurse? Here you can compare the nurse's speech to that of the one while she is descending. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities, as she is 23 years old. It takes 2 years to become an entry-level registered nurse, or an RN, or 4 years to become an advanced practice registered nurse, APRN. At this point she would have done the minimum requirement of schooling to be such. It is very evident she has worked herself extensively and has dealt with a lot of stress, the burnout of such contributing to her nervous breakdown. If the nurses are anything like the ones in the children's hospital, it would contribute to how they were unthinking and possibly didn't care for their patients. This also may be another reason she's so familiar with hospitals, even considering her own health issues that might have contributed to them. Psychopomp Gold is a game with multiple layers, and this is what makes it stick out amidst the others. In a way, it is a story that has a deep lore that includes elements of religious anxiety, reincarnation, soulmates, and the struggles to maintain or fix a broken universe. The idea that souls may exist in different stages and within the same universe is one that I find very interesting, and is something that I've explored in my own works. There is also a lot that can be said in regards to various conditions as well, even in ways that I might have missed. Carbonic says that identity is very important to them, and perhaps contributes to why this theme is recurrent within the game. The characters are also unique, and there's a lot more to them than meets the eye. As such, it is a game that has struck a chord for me for so many reasons, and I hope that at the end of this video that might be the case for the viewers as well. I highly recommend that everyone takes their time to play Psychopomp Gold, or the free version that came before it, Psychopomp. Thank you for taking the time to watch and listen. Did I miss something, or do you have a theory of your own? Please feel free to let me know in the comments. I would love to hear. I am also working on a second video, so any suggestions are appreciated and encouraged. Special thanks to the people who made this video possible, and whom I have much appreciation for. Euphrasie, editing and proofreading. Asmo, inspiration and proofreading. Ozma, proofreading, and for being my wife. I will link their socials in the description. Please go give them a follow. If you'd like to support me, you can give this video a like or subscribe to my channel. You can also find me on the socials that will be posted below. Thanks for watching, take care of yourselves, and stay safe.